To start your shoulder evaluation, you clear the cervical spine. So if I can have you perform extension, look up at the ceiling here. Good. Now if you can touch your right ear to your right shoulder, side bend, left ear to left shoulder, side bend. Good. Now if you can rotate your head and look at the wall over there, rotation. Good. Now back and towards me, rotation. Good. Now touch your chin to your chest there. Good. Flexion. Alright, so that was cervical spine. Now we move on to shoulder ranges of motion. Alright, so if I could have you perform abduction, sort of bring your arms up like you're doing a jumping jack. Good, now back down, adduction, good. Now shoulder flexion, if you can bring your arms up like this, like you're a zombie. Good, now back down. Very good. Now we're going to perform internal, external rotation. So just take one of your arms like this in front of you. Now bring your palm into your chest. Good, that's internal rotation, back out, and external rotation. Very good. All right, and now I'm gonna have you reach behind your back, so take either one of your hands, bring it above your head, and reach behind your back here. All right, good. I'm gonna perform all of those on both sides of the body. Now, passive shoulder range of motion. All right, I'm gonna perform abduction here. So if I can just have your shoulder, perform, oh no, we're not resisting yet, don't worry. So, abduction, very good. Flexion, perfect. Now I'm going to take you into internal and external rotation. Internal, external rotation. All right, good. Now we're going to do isometric resistance. So we're going to start by resisting abduction. So if you can hold steady and strong against this motion here. Good. All right. Now we're going to do adduction. If you can resist me here, hold against me. Good. All right, that was abduction, adduction. Now flexion. Or external rotation, excuse me. Bring your arm up like this. All right, external, if you can hold steady and strong against me. There we go. Now internal rotation, hold against me here. Good. All right, now elbow flexion, elbow extension, hold against me here. Good, extension, hold against me. Good. All right, now we're gonna be testing supraspinatus specifically here. So to start, we're going to perform our painful arc. If you can take your hands and sort of perform a jumping jack here, we're going to do abduction again. Good. You would be looking for any pain throughout the range of motion there. Then we perform the Hawkins-Kennedy test. So I would take your arm, have your shoulder like this, and I would basically be pushing her elbow up into her face here, looking for a reproduction of pain. That's the Hawkins-Kennedy. Now the empty can test. You bring them up into shoulder abduction and into plane of scaption. Now I want you to hold your hand down like you're pouring out a soda. Good. Now from here, I'm going to resist. I'm going to push your arm down. I want you to resist it for me, okay? Perfect. That's the empty can test. You're looking for a reproduction of pain there. Now the drop arm test. I'm going to lift your arm up. All right, and simply hold it when I let go. Good. There, the drop arm test, you would be looking for someone not able to hold their arm up and it sort of just drops. That would be a positive sign. Now lastly, you palpate the supraspinatus. So if I can have you take your hand, put it behind your back like so. Good. You palpate along the shoulder here. Supraspinatus will be right about here. Okay, so to test infraspinatus, again, we start with the painful arc. So if you can perform the painful arc for me, shoulder abduction. Very good. Again, looking for pain through that range of motion. Now next, you perform the Hawkins-Kennedy again. I can have your arm here. Very good. Pressing that elbow into her face. Looking for, again, reproduction of pain. And then we do test isometrically infraspinatus, which is external rotation. So if you can resist this motion for me here. Very good. And then lastly, you palpate infraspinatus. So if I can have you turn around for me. Good. Thank you. Palpate along the scapula here. And it'll be right around the lateral edge of your scapula here. Right. To test subscapularis, you start with the painful arc again. So again, shoulder abduction, perform that painful arc. All right, good. Again, looking for pain throughout the range of motion there. Then perform the Gerbert liftoff. If I can have you turn around for me. Good. Now, if you can take your hand and place it on your back, lift it about an inch off. All right. Now, I'm going to push into your back here. Don't let your hand touch your back. Good. You'd be looking for a reproduction of pain there. Now you isometrically test subscapularis, which is resisting internal rotation. So if I can have you bring your arm up like this. All right, hold steady and strong against me here. Good. That's isometrically testing subscap. And then you palpate the tendon, which you first locate the lesser tubercle of your humerus here and move slightly medial, and it'll be deep to it. That will be where the tendon of subscapularis is. To test the long head of the biceps, you start off doing Neer's test, which is passive shoulder flexion with slight overpressure. So I'm going to bring your arm up all the way through the range of motion of flexion and slight overpressure. That's Neer's test. For the next one, Speed's test. I'm going to hold your shoulder here. Bring your arm, extend your arm out. All right, I'm going to push down. I want you to resist, hold strong against me here, okay? That's Speed's test. And then lastly, Jurgensen's test. So if I can have you sit down here and roll your sleeve up on this side for me. All right, good. Now you palpate the biceps tendon, keeping your hand on that up top, and you isometrically resist elbow flexion while performing external rotation. So I'm going to push down here, you hold against me, okay? Good. And you perform external rotation while you do that. That's Jurgensen's test, and that's how you test the bicep. All right, now we're testing for labral lesions. So we're going to start with O'Brien's test. If you can take your hand out in front of you like this. I'm going to have you internally rotate your palm until your thumb's facing downward. And from here, I would resist shoulder flexion. That would be painful if it was a positive sign. Then you externally rotate your hand, palm facing up, good. Again, resist shoulder flexion. If that provided relief, then that would be a positive sign for a slap lesion. Then we move on to the grind test. So if I can have you lay down here for me. Awesome. Good. Now if you can, I'm going to have you bring your arm right here like this. Good. So from here, I would be pushing inwards on the elbow in the humerus, while internally and externally rotating the shoulder, feeling for any grind or crepitus there. That's the compression rotation test. Then we move on to the jerk test. Start in the same position here, pushing in on the elbow while we horizontally abduct. Here I would have my hand under the scapula while we do this. And you're feeling for a clunk that would indicate the humerus moving and a posterior lesion. Lastly, I'm going to have you stand up for me here. We're going to perform the anterior slide test. Here, I'm going to have you put your hands on your hips, get some attitude. Have my hand on your shoulder, and I'm going to be pushing up and forward into that elbow there. Good. Now we're testing glenohumeral instability. To start, you perform the sulcus sign here. Palpate the acromion process, and you're going to pull down caudally on the arm slightly here. That's the sulcus sign, looking for excess gapping up here. Then we move on to the apprehension test. So I would passively externally rotate here at the shoulder until they become apprehensive. There we go. Then the relocation test, if I can have you lay down here. Awesome. Relocation test, we're going to perform that same external rotation at the shoulder here, but upon that, you're going to relocate the humeral head, pushing down on it, and from here you would expect to get a little bit more range of motion in that external rotation. Now from here, perform the anterior release test. You would simply release your hand from the humeral head, and you'll either expect the humeral head to move forward or sublux. And lastly, it's posterior apprehension. So I would have them horizontally abduct. You're going to be pushing down into their elbow here while palpating under the scapula. You'll be feeling for a possible click here while pushing down. All right, lastly, we are testing the AC joint here. So we start with the opposite shoulder test. You can just take your hand for me, place it across your chest on your opposite shoulder. Good. You would be feeling or looking for a reproduction of pain over the AC joint. Lastly, if you can roll your sleeve up for me here, you simply palpate the AC joint. Find your acromion process slightly medial to it.